Mystical beings, do they exist? Well, if you're watching this, you probably have a suspicion that they actually might exist. Now, I'm going to be talking not just like about aliens or something today, but what's called interdimensional beings. Now, if you kind of have a metaphysical, mystical spirituality to you, then you probably already know and understand that there is a universal consciousness or source or God that oversees all of us and connects all of us together. Now, not only us humans, but everything in the world, everything on Earth, everything in the universe, and all of these interdimensional, multidimensional, however else you want to say it, beings that exist out there. So to kind of understand this a little bit is, for the most part, you really can't see them with your naked eye. Now, we've heard of people seeing aliens and spaceships and things, but these other mystical beings are things you've kind of seen maybe through historical drawings or folklore or different things like trolls and fairies and even like aliens in Egypt or different things like that. So if those kind of existed, I guess you could say, a long time ago, or they have a reference to them, and it seems like that's kind of going on today too, that kind of shows that they may actually exist. So going to Einstein's space-time theory. Now, to understand that, you understand two-dimensional. Three-dimensional is everything with height, width, and depth. Then you go to fourth dimension, which is time. And once you get to the fourth dimension, then you reach the speed of light. Once you get past the speed of light, which is everything you are seeing before you, you see everything in front of you because of the speed of light. But once you get beyond things that are the speed of light, that's when you start entering the fifth dimension or higher. That's when supposedly you could have time travel or wormholes or different things, and that's how you are able to access these other beings. Now, in order to access them, a lot of times they're accessed through either like hypnosis or meditation, or there may be places on this earth that just have some kind of vibration. You know, people have said like places like Chichen Itza or the pyramids, or places where ley lines maybe meet, just have this high energy that there have been some sightings of some of these mystical beings. Now, the reason that we can't see them with our eyes is because we vibrate at a lower frequency than these beings. They are vibrating at a higher frequency. Now think about this. Look at this picture here of a light spectrum, okay? So you can see how right there in the middle, that little tiny bit is all we can see with our eyes. And there's everything else that exists outside of that. So think about this. You can't see TV signals coming through the air. You can't see cell phone signals, but you know they're all there. So that's kind of the same thing, is that these beings actually exist, but you just can't see them because you are not vibrating at the frequency that they are. And so in order to see them, you have to raise your vibration in order to get to their level, and then you're able to see them. Now, I can tell you from my experience, I have seen these during meditation. Some of them have been pretty clear. Some of them are kind of shadowing. I can't quite figure them out. Other times I've just felt them. And I think it's just that I haven't raised my vibration high enough to actually see them, make them out completely. So once you get to that point of raising it high enough, then you can actually see them. So now, what kind of creatures are there that exist out there? So I've seen angels. I've seen the mystical blue beings. I've seen trolls. I've seen a giant. Think back to history, okay? Think of the Bible. They talk about giants in the Bible, right? So, you know, why do they mention giants? Are these stories pretend in the Bible, or are they really real? And then I've always wondered when I read the Bible, it's like, how come all these people used to get visited by angels, and today you don't hear of people getting visited by angels? It'd be like kind of a normal thing. Oh yeah, an angel came to me in a dream and told me this. It was like no big deal. And it's like, well, why would the angels talk to people back then but not today? And I think it's because people were much more spiritual. And so today, maybe not so spiritual, you'd hear people speaking with angels and you think they're like cuckoo, mental, or whatever. But it really is out there, and you really can speak to angels. So that's another thing, is when I have accessed these beings, I speak with them. And you could call me crazy. And I kind of thought, well, okay, is this just my imagination? Is it just in my head? But I've started seeing more and more videos and testimonies of people seeing the same things that I've been seeing. And so it makes me realize, okay, I am not really imagining this stuff, these things really exist. And these people are talking with them, just like I did. Now, you don't talk like regular, and I'm sure that they probably speak some other language because they're from some other dimension somewhere else, who knows where or how they get here. But in order to talk, I guess it's more a telepathic kind of thing. You just, it's just kind of like when you have a thought in your head and you're thinking, oh yeah, I got to go do this today or something. You have this thought in your head. It's the same thing. You have this thought, but these thoughts come to you, and I'm like, am I just imagining this? Am I saying this in my head? But they are talking. Now you can watch. I did have an experience, and I didn't physically see if they were the blue beings, but I've heard about these blue beings that will come. They come, I guess, in love, and they will heal people by like moving them all around and different things like that. And I didn't physically see them, but I kind of sensed them, and they spoke to me, and my body was moving in different directions and stuff. But I have a link below if you want to see my testimony about my experience there. And I've actually had several come-ins with them since that one instance. So let's say I had the mystical blue beings experience. I've also seen angels. Now the angels, that was, I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza event, and they have a part where you get to heal somebody. And while we were in our groups healing this person, I saw angels appear. I actually have another video about this. I saw angels appear above everybody's heads, these angel wings. Now I couldn't make up their faces, and there was light coming down to help the healing energy come through and out. Other times I've seen angels where they're kind of like floating, and you kind of see like this trail of something behind them. And it was the same thing in one of these healing sessions, and they were like flying across the room, like down these aisles, and it was really cool to see. Other times I've seen fairies. Now the fairies, I haven't been able to really make out like wings and things, and I've just assumed they're fairies. I don't know if they're fairies or orbs or what they are, but they're more kind of like little twinkling lights, and they'll kind of go around, kind of like a little firefly. They kind of around like that. One time I had come out of my body, and they were kind of like circling around my body. I don't know what they were doing, but I know my daughter's really interested in fairies. I just got her a book about fairies, and that's another one of the beings that is like old folklore or mythical tales that people claim. But there's so much about these fairies that people believe they exist. And I actually just found a video recently. I can put a link below for that. There's probably several videos out there, but this one in particular I found was really interesting. Somebody was just videotaping their property, and something flew in front of it. And first you think, oh, it's just like a leaf or it's a bug or something. But then at the end you look and you can kind of see, like, it looks like they're wearing little shoes. And it's like, what in the world? So it's kind of neat that it's like, how are they able to capture this on camera? And then you kind of think of like ghosts and how you can kind of capture ghosts on cameras and orbs of light and things on cameras. So, so there's the fairies, and those existed, I guess, a long time ago, still do exist today. Another one is a giant. So, so I was doing a pineal gland meditation, and if you know Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, he wants you to tune into mystical. He wants you to have a mystical experience by tuning into your pineal gland, because pineal gland is really kind of your access to these mystical experiences, mystical beings, whatever, because you're kind of raising your vibration and sending higher brainwaves, I guess, out there. So the giant, so I was doing a meditation. It was really, really, really cold. And then while I'm laying there, all of a sudden, a giant appears. It kind of reminds me, if you've ever seen, is it Muppet Christmas Carol? And it's that big, kind of like that big giant, I didn't see his face at all, but he kind of was like stocky and kind of had like rags draped down and stuff. And this overwhelming feeling of joy just came over me. It was just so amazing and just so happy and smiling. It wasn't love, it was joy. I just knew it was joy. And I asked him, I said, I'm kind of cold, can you help warm me up? And then he put a blanket on top of me. I know it sounds cuckoo, but that's what I experienced. And at the end of my meditation, he appeared again. And I was like curious, I wanted to ask him a question. I just want to know his name. So I asked his name. He said his name was Tom. I don't know. Did I make that up? I don't know if he really told me, but I've been waiting to meet him again. That was just a couple weeks ago. You can't like predict when you're going to meet them. I guess I could set an intention to try to meet him again, but at the end of that meditation, I came out and my husband was like, oh my goodness, you're smiling so big. And I was like, I know. And I told him about my friend Tom that I had just made, and he just made me feel so joyful inside. So, you hear about giants. Think about like You know, they show like artwork of giants, and they're in the Bible, and supposedly people have dug up bones of giants. So you know, maybe they like existed a long time ago, or maybe they're just vibrating a higher frequency now and they're really walking among us and we don't even realize it and we just can't see them. So that's another thing I'm wondering is like, when I access these mystical beings, are they right there with me, or are they transporting from another dimension to come here? You know, I really don't even know how that all works. You know, I mean, if you go back to Einstein, you talk about, you go to the fifth dimension, there's infinite dimensions that exist after that, you know? So there's no telling how these creatures get here or if they're already here. And maybe there are ones, you know, you can do some research. I've kind of read in some books about different things. There's all different kinds of levels of mystical beings and how they interact or where they come from. There's like the Syrians and I guess the reptilian ones. They're kind of negative ones. You've got like bird people, feline people, different things like that. So, you know, do your research, because once I started experiencing these, I started doing research because it was, wow, it was kind of cool. So the last one I was going to talk about that I've seen, well, I take that back. There's probably two more. I've seen other figures. I couldn't really make them out, kind of like grayish figures, and I've sensed things around me. I remember one time I was meditating, and it was actually like 3 or 4 days in a row. I could feel someone sitting at the end of my bed, and I had to lift up my mask to look down there to see, because I thought, is my husband in the room? Is a kid in the room? Is there a cat? There's nothing. And it happened several days in a row where I just felt that. And it actually freaked me out a little bit. But then after a while, I kind of got used to it. I was like, okay, they're here because they're trying to visit with me or help me or something. I don't really know. I guess I should probably try to speak with them more. Okay, so now the last one I'm going to talk about is really cool. Now, during another one of these healing sessions, I guess the energy in the room at these Dr. Joe retreats is so high that all these mystical beings appear. And I was even reading about this one lady that when she was asking Dr. Joe a question about some kind of being in the room during the healing, and he goes, which one? So by him saying that kind of confirmed to her, or I guess the audience or whatever, that there is more than one kind of mystical being that appears, or multidimensional, interdimensional beings out there. So the other one that I saw one time is short little trolls. You know, I guess they were, you know, maybe, I don't know, like 3 feet tall or something. And they reminded me of like the ones you would see in Norway, you know, the big nose and kind of short and stocky. And, I don't know why they were there. I just saw them kind of walking around the outside of the room, and I just thought it was kind of cool. So, you know, it's interesting that people a long time ago believed in these, and now they're like, oh, it's just old folklore and it's a myth or whatever. But I don't know. I think they're still around. Now, I also saw one time in a meditation, I was recently in Mexico, near Cancun, and I saw some trolls, but these were a little bit different. They were probably, I don't know, maybe a foot tall, maybe a little shorter than that. And they were kind of a little cuter. They didn't have like that kind of long, ugly nose like these trolls from Norway or something did. They were a little cuter, and they had like this fuzzy hair. And they were kind of bouncing around, and I noticed they were kind of like in a tropical area. And I kind of felt like I was shrunk down to their size. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then once I realized what I was seeing, it kind of like they went away. It was like I was vibrating a higher frequency. I was like, oh, cool. And then it kind of went away. Then kind of came back and kind of went away. That's kind of what I hate when I get to that point. I get so excited that I just kind of lose it and my frequency lowers a little bit. I kind of come back down to earth. But then I was telling this lady at lunch about it, and she lived in the area, and she said, oh, those sound like aluxes. And I was like, well, what's an alux? And she said they actually are known to live in the Cancun area, or I guess the whole Mayan area, which is that whole peninsula down there in Mexico. And these aluxes are, you know, like I said, I've read different kinds of little beings that exist. And there's ones that are kind of a little bit mischievous. They're not really, there's some that are there for love and help. And then there's the ones the dark ones. But these are kind of in between, and they're kind of mischievous. Now, I say mischievous, but I looked up more information about it when she told me about them. And she was saying that when they were building some bridge in Cancun, that they started like destroying things on the job site, and the workers were not wanting to go there because like they were getting freaked out by things moving or different things like that. And it was because these aluxes protect and watch over the land. And so by them building this bridge over there, they're destroying the land, and they didn't like it, so they were messing with them. And so they built them this little house that they could live in. And that, I guess that's what people have known from the Mayan times, is that these little aluxes, that they kind of cause trouble because they don't want you destroying their land. And so in order to make them happy, you basically build them a little house, and then they'll leave you alone. And after that, the hotel I was staying at, now I don't know if it was really a little house or not, but I did see, like, because the lady told me, she's like, there's little pyramids that they'll build for them. And I saw this little pyramid. I was walking through the hotel, and I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's why that pyramid's there or not, but, you know, they built this big hotel, and maybe they're doing that for the aluxes. So it was kind of cool that I was seeing something that lived locally in the area. So, sorry, I'm out of breath. I'd like to know if you have had any experiences with any of these interdimensional beings. I've had discussions with other people that have seen a lot of the similar things that I have. I guess I haven't heard anybody say anything different than I have, but pretty much the same things I've seen. So I would like to hear some stories that you guys may have, or any other comments you guys might have about mystical beings, interdimensional beings, where you think they exist, why you think they're here. There's I just love, there's so many books out there now about it. It's just like overwhelming to try to find it out. I didn't really go into aliens much, but you know, you can go research all the alien kind of stuff you want. But I think it's all kind of related in the sense that they are able to vibrate at a higher frequency and are able to probably time travel, time warp, travel through wormholes or whatever in order to get to our planet. You know, maybe they are kind of in between some of these mystical beings that you can't see at all and us, where they're kind of vibrating near our frequency, so that's why we're able to see them, but then they're able to bend space and time, and so that's how they're able to, you know, in and out, and you're like looking and they're gone, whatever. But they're all related, and I say they're all related, we're all related, because if you go back to, like I said in the beginning, we're all connected to that one universal consciousness, and we can access anything and everything in the universe just by accessing that higher consciousness. Thank you very much for watching, and like and subscribe if you really enjoyed this video.